Our second panel for this morning is about initiatives that are already happening in AUN universities. Our first speaker is a lecturer from the Faculty of Environmental Management of the Prince of Songkla University in Thailand. Our speaker is Mohammad Shahryar Chowdhury, who received his Bachelor of Science degree in Engineering from the Atish Dipankar University, Science Technology in Bangladesh, and he received his Master of Science degree from the Prince of Songkla University in 2019 and a Master's of Science degree in the University Kebangsaan, Malaysia. He is currently working as a lecturer on environmental management, and his areas of research interest include renewable energy, solar PV, thin film, perovskite solar cells, and solar PV waste recycling and semiconductor materials. The title, the bombastic title of his presentation is Solar Time Bomb: Without Recycling and Policy Waiting for Environmental Pandemic by 2030. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mohammad Shahryar Chowdhury. The floor is yours. Chris, can you check if our speaker is here?
Okay.
Oh, there. Yes, we can hear you.
Is it okay? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Nikki. And very good morning, all of you. I hope in this pandemic, wherever you are, stay safe with your family. In this pandemic, stay safe is the big challenge for us, but we can't stop our work. We have to do something for our environment and for us. Next slide. Okay. Solar cell. We know the solar energy. Everyone knows solar energy. Solar energy is the most promoting renewable energy in the world. Everyone knows about the solar energy. And a solar cell has a three kind of generation: first generation, second generation, and third generation. First generation is a silicon-based solar cell, we call first generation, and second generation is a thin film-based solar cell, and third generation solar cell we call organic and inorganic solar cell. It's also perovskite solar cell. It's under research right now. Next. Currently, commercially available solar cell dominating the silicon-based solar cell, it's a efficiency around 24%, and thin film solar cell efficiency 15 to 23%. And third generation solar cell, perovskite solar cell is now under research, but it's still 25% in lab scale research, but it's not available in commercially available. If we look the scenario of solar cell, it's a dramatically increase day by day. If we look 2009, it was just 23 gigawatt, but just 10 years, after 10 years, it's dramatically 400 gigawatt. And if we compare 2016 to 2017, it's 50% increase. And day by day, it's an increase. But what happens? What happens, the solar cell, we know that solar, everyone knows. Next slide, solar. And problem is, we know the benefit of solar cell is very environment friendly, it's cost effective and everything. What is the behind of scene solar cell? Behind of scene is different. No, previous slide. Behind of scene is different.
Please move to the previous slide.
May I share my slide? It would be better for. Okay. Okay. Is it visible, my slide?
Are you showing? Oh, we could see a pie chart and a
This
graph,
one, right?
a
Yeah,
bar
yeah.
graph. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we look at 2016 to 2017, it was dramatically increased and 15%. And we know if we look that what happens behind the scene is different because of we know the neutral rules, right? And every force had opposite reaction, right? So that's the scene. In 2000, by end of 2016, we got waste from solar photovoltaic panel 250,000 ton from solar panel, and by end of 2050 it will be increased 70 million ton solar waste, which is close to 4,500 gigawatt. So that's why we need solar recycling. So currently, right now, there is a no available recycling process in the world. For in Europe, they have some recycling policy, but the under W Tripoli by controlled by W Tripoli, but we don't have any policy directly for solar energy or solar waste recycling. And some company they took initiative for recycling, but it's not no one monitoring that things. How can they do that? And Japan say they are doing solar recycling, but they burn the solar panel. It's also not environment friendly. But currently some companies, this is the solar world, they are doing solar recycling this way. And they prove that it's possible to recycling 90% to 96% recover the material, and we can reproduce solar module. We can make a new solar panel. So it's a possible, but we need to think about that. And also it's a help if we recycle solar panel, it protect our global warming. And we receive, and it's also environment friendly if we recycle silicon, because of we know that solar cell fabricate from heavy materials, lead and cadmium telluride, zinc sulfide, and different heavy metal and hazardous materials to fabricate a solar cell. So if we recycle, it's possible, but it's not available in the market. This year, my research took twice time shown in Eco Business Singapore-based newspaper. They shows my research, because of we need actually 80 to 85% or 90% people don't know about the solar recycling. They are thinking about only just solar cell. But we need to think first. So that's why we did some research, and that newspaper, they highlighted our research twice time in this year. And this is my research article, and it's the highest downloaded that journal. Energy Strategy Review, most downloaded in this year. And we took some initiative for third generation solar cell. We know that's a third generation solar cell now under research, but we are thinking first, how can it possible in future? Is it possible to recycling third generation solar cell? So yes, it's possible. We successfully done our research and lab scale research, and we recovered 90 to 95% materials recovered, and we can fabricate a new solar cell. This is my research team. I did research Malaysia, UKM, UNITEN, and UM. And my Professor Noshadami, he's the most famous professor in Malaysia for solar cell. We did recycle and we fabricate the solar cell, and later on we did recycle. What happens? Is it possible? And we did successfully did the recycling. But it's a lab scale research. It's lab scale research. But we need actually initiative for socially. We need aware about that, and from government we need to take, because of scientists cannot do anything without stakeholder, without government, without people. And that's the thing. We are thinking about that, but for policymakers, they need to make a policy about how can they make a policy for recycling, how can collect the solar panel from a local root level, and how can it process, and company should be take a old solar module for recycling, and they produce a new solar module. So we need the monitoring board for that. This is my research collaboration, and I have a good research team. We are fighting for actually establish the method for solar recycling, and we try to spread the world, especially our Asian country. We don't have any facilities about that, and we don't think about that. So we need a novel facility for commercial scale. So we are doing research in Bangladesh, and we have some research partner from Australia, Malaysia, Thailand, and our goal is actually to provide a novel recycling method, environment friendly recycling method. And also we need to make a design for solar module, because of if we fabricate a new module, it's not friendly for recyclable. So that's why we need to think also about the design of new solar cell, because of environment friendly and also possible to recycle. We design before that, then it's easy to recycle. And we need social awareness. We need a social awareness. Those are social worker and government responsible person. We need to think about that. This is actually another time bomb waiting for us. This is the true. And if we do not do, it's the effect water pollution, soil pollution, and also and also smoke, increase the smoke. We know that about that. And if lead increase in our air, so weak our immune system, we cannot breathe. So this is the thing. Actually, we can destroy our environment, we can destroy our world. On the other hand, we can save our world. That is our responsibility. We cannot deny. In for future sustainable development, we have to take initiative. We don't need to think others. Then we can save our earth. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
this is my, because of actually time limitation, I finish shorter. And if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
need more information, you can join with me. And also if anyone would like to join my team, my research teams, and then welcome everyone. Thank you.
Thank you
Back to
very
you,
much.
Dr.
Yes.
Nikki.
Yes, and we'll go back to you when we gather all the questions that are addressed to you. Thank you very
Thank you.
much for your presentation. I will now introduce the next speaker for this panel. The title of the next presentation is Live the Change, Be the Change, Fostering a Mindset for Environmental Stewardship. And our speaker, Ms. Sadaf Ansari, is lecturer and associate director of studies at Ridgeview Residential College at the National University of Singapore. That's where I did my PhD, and I really, really love this campus. Ms. Sadaf is an architect, and she obtained her bachelor's degree in architecture from the School of Planning and Architecture in India, and is registered with the Council of Architecture. And she graduated with a master's degree in architecture studies with a focus on architecture and urbanism from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology from MIT in 2003. Her work in architecture has centered on the interdisciplinary overlap of architecture, urban design, and landscape. And her academic research examines the significance of built heritage in urban development. And at NUS, she teaches a year-long introductory module on sustainability to students in a residential college. Beyond acquiring conceptual knowledge about sustainability concepts, the module includes hands-on project work in the testing and implementation of sustainability solutions within the NUS University campus. I'm so excited to listen. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give our version of a round of applause to Ms. Sadaf Ansari. You have the floor, Ms. Sadaf.
Hi, good morning. So excited to be here. And I must confess, from the start of the session this morning, quite a few speakers actually, what they've said, I found it really touch a chord in what I think of as an educator beyond all the roles that we do, especially the starting point this morning with the first speaker, the conviction that we are interconnected. I think that is the guiding principle in sustainability that we all need to adopt. And then, of course, several other speakers spoke about the relationship between, I think, us as human beings and the earth. Before I begin, sometimes technology, stumps me. So I just want to make sure that you are looking, in fact, at my screen.
We see the title page.
You do see the title page. Okay, I'm just going to go into a slideshow mode and hope that it supports me. Can I just, before I go, do you see a slide change now to my name?
Yes, we see a C.
Excellent. All right. I'll get started. I know time constraints. So live the change, be the change actually is a motto sort of inspired by Mahatma Gandhi, if I may say. Be the change that you want to see in the world. Also adopted by Barack Obama at some point in time. Fostering a mindset for environmental stewardship, the knowledge for us as a community to know that we can make the change that we want to see, and how we have embedded that in the place where I teach. So just a bit of background. Yes, my name is Sadaf. I am the Associate Director of Studies and a Senior Lecturer at Ridgeview Residential College, parked within the National University of Singapore. I'll explain a little bit more about the college and the context in which my sharing sits. But before I move forward, here are my two children and my motivation and my guilt with respect to knowing that my responsibility to them and in general extends beyond the classroom. I do worry about what kind of the world they will inherit from us. And I feel a little bit guilty, but I know there have been several speakers who've spoken about not focusing too much on guilt. So moving forward, when I joined, I think RVRC and NUS, I was introduced to the work of Rachel Carson, who is actually a marine biologist out of the United States. Back in the 1960s, she wrote a book called Silent Spring, and that sort of pushed the environmental movement in the United States and led to the establishment of the Environmental Protection Agency in the United States. And the entire book is pretty eye-catching. It's an old book, but the lack of humility in humans, I think, that she exemplifies in the book, and the need for us to really, before we undertake stewardship, is the need for humility to know that we are within nature. We often talk about saving the planet, saving the earth. I think we're trying at some point to save ourselves. We are within nature. I know Father spoke just now about, how the Pope is also talking about that. These are all messages of ethics and humility to place ourselves within the larger scheme of things. And I think that's an important point to keep in mind when we teach, especially in a formal setup as well. All right, I'll begin with a quick update on how NUS as a university has evolved greatly its commitment to sustainability in terms of education, research, and institutional best practices. And I think in the last part is where the real meat of it is. So it's basically a three-tiered approach. And what it's doing is sustainability needs to be parked as an educational institute in all aspects of campus life, in operations, in planning, in the way we construct our buildings, how we conduct research, what we focus on, what we are teaching, how we are teaching. And last but most importantly, the onus on university to be the bulwark of an instruction to public service. I think we really need to not forget that that continues to be our role. We don't just have a obligation to our students, but it extends beyond that to the community. So of course, promoting best practices in institutional performance, developing environmental literacy, both within the staff and students, and of course, developing relevant research and academic initiatives to integrate practices. Within this larger context was the birth of the RVRC program with very specific mission and values towards fostering environmental stewardship. RVRC, Ridgeview Residential College, is a 2-year living and learning program with a focus on environmental stewardship founded in 2014. When I say living and learning program, in the larger university, We house around 650 students with an uptake of around 280 students every year from the freshman class who go through a specific program in addition to what they study in our home faculty. To give you context, I could be a student in engineering or arts and social sciences or any other of the faculties in NUS, fulfilling my requirements to the university, in addition, while living on campus, fulfilling the requirements of this program. Let's take a look at what the requirements are. Our mission is to cultivate students who are intellectually inquisitive, action-oriented, not just based in theory, resilient and future-ready, basically by using sustainability, education, and workplace readiness as interconnected platforms. We're trying to get our students to extend learning beyond the classroom as they come together in the living learning context of the college. Again, we take a three-tiered approach. At the very start, we want to make sure that students understand and identify that sustainability issues are interconnected. We had a speaker earlier in the day, I forget her name, I'm so sorry, who talked about the iceberg model and how we have to go down to the hidden levels to see, where are these challenges actually coming about? And then to see how we can integrate them in the everyday life at the individual and community scale. Of course, we want to make sure students obtain critical knowledge and skills to evaluate for themselves and be informed. And lastly, to develop and deliver actual strategies that will address sustainability issues, both in the local and regional settings. How the program does that is parking certain components to the academic and the co-academic setting. A few components to share those of you who are curious. We begin with a year one compulsory module on sustainability that everyone in year one has to read in the college, not the university. So we have around 280 students reading that. Then we have compulsory co-academic activities that I'll share with you. We do reach out to the industry, to reach out to industry partners who are actually moving things on the ground. Let's not forget that it needs to make business sense for things to roll out, and we may have idealistic notions that sometimes don't play out. We want to enhance our urban dwelling students outside the classroom to really get them to understand, just get out of the classroom and see how things are. We need to connect them. Just now we had a speaker who said, again, we need to connect them to earth. We have to get them out of the classroom. And lastly, empower them with a sense of responsibility towards the self and community with respect to sustainability. So that's our program. The general module is on sustainability. It's called Understanding and Critiquing. We don't believe in preaching sustainability wholesale. Take a look, evaluate, understand. That's our motto. We try to make sure that the classroom is as unconventional as possible. You're looking at a picture of a lesson being conducted in a green certified building outdoors on the campus. Key skills we're looking at are inspired by UNESCO guidelines for education to visualize interconnections, systems thinking, basically, critical thinking, strategic competency to actually implement solutions, and let's not forget, communicate and collaborate. That's how the module is structured. We make sure that we have students from all 6 different faculties interacting to take an interdisciplinary approach to learning sustainability. This is taken from the Global Footprint Tracker. And once we put this on screen, we notice our students find it eye-opening. At the global, regional, and local levels, how much are we consuming? This is a wonderful tool, and I really encourage you, if you haven't encountered it before, to go and explore that. It's the Global Footprint Tracker put in place by Dr. Matthias. And as you can notice, it actually puts into perspective ecological deficits and ecological footprints. And it's very easy for urban dwellers to forget where and who is supplying the consumerist lifestyle that we lead. Then we have project work, and I think a lot of you have spoken about it. We're trying to get our students to not just talk about bringing about change. We actually let them be empowered to take on something that they've observed on campus and get their hands dirty using the iceberg, see where the problem actually lies, and learn for yourself how hard it is sometimes to implement even that small change. Moving on to some of the things that we do. I just wanted to share this. This is an open blog where we share our student work. It's documented by abstract, and we are happy for anyone to take a look at what our students are doing, some of the projects they've undertaken, some of the small incremental changes that they've done. And from the student work, we loop back to inform the university infrastructure to get them to implement at the university scale some of the changes that we envision. Co-academic activities are designed to empower students. This is the International Coastal Cleanup. Again, getting them out of the classroom. Experiential learning, observe. We don't have a lot of forests, but whatever little we have, we make sure we try to get our students out there. A little bit beyond the coastline of urban Singapore into the outer islands, understanding what natural heritage is. Again, kayaking is something our students find really exciting, get them in the water, but understand how the urban landscape is fast evolving. Taking them out to regional impacts in Sumatra and getting them engaged in reforestation efforts and understanding the challenges locals face there. This is one of my activities, which is to get them to use some of the marine debris they've collected to form and shape artworks, and in that process, really tangle the consumerist impact that we are having at the larger scale. And then moving on to residential life. A simple action, water rationing. It's not something we think about most often when we open the tap and, water is free flow. But Singapore has a real problem with water. Really drilling down on that by implementing a one-day water rationing exercise to get students to reflect on how we cannot take anything for granted. Connecting with the community and natural surroundings, walking in our neighborhood, and getting students to again engage with nature. This is taken during COVID times. We haven't stopped. We have a student-driven conservation effort for reforestation led by our in-house forest ecologist. Masks on, groups of 5, we're continuing. We don't want to stop. And I end with, back with Rachel Carson, when we talk to our students, we do tell them hope. We are at a moment of diversion. We can travel like Robert Frost on the well-trodden path, or we can take the other fork. There is hope, but we'll have to walk the less trodden path to, stand a chance to make something that preserves us beyond just a human species holistically. I'm very mindful of the time, so I'm going to end there. But for everyone who's an educator out there, believe and I think continue to inspire youth that they do have the power in enhancing collective awareness and action. We've seen this with greater global movements and change that's we're observing in the political arena, in the social economic arena, and there is no reason to not have hope. Let's just all move forward. With that, I'll come to an end of my presentation, and handing over the time.
Thank you very much. I think part of the inspiration this morning is we've heard from people who walk their talk. And I'm really glad that you ended with the word walk, because the next person I'm about to introduce is someone with whom I have constantly booked a walk for my classes, literally, because the person I'm introducing, Ms. Abigail Favis, Abby Favis, it guides us in the nature forest walk on campus. The title of her presentation is The Campus as Teacher, the Hidden Curriculum of Campus Green Spaces and Infrastructure. And the speaker I'm introducing, Abby Fabis, she's an instructor of the Department of Environmental Science in Ateneo, and she's also program manager of campus sustainability from the Ateneo Institute of Sustainability. Abby obtained her Master's of Science in Environmental Sanitation at the University of Ghent in Belgium, and her undergraduate degree is in Environmental Science from the Ateneo de Manila. Currently, her research includes sustainable consumption, waste management, and urban biodiversity and green spaces. Ladies and gentlemen, digital applause for Abby Favis. Abby, you have the floor.
Thank you, Nikia. Good morning, everyone. Can everybody hear me and see the screen?
Yes, we can hear you and see the screen.
Thank you. So good morning again, and thank you, Nikki, and thank you to the previous panelists. Those are very excellent talks. I'm Abby, and my contribution to our panel today is a brief exploration of how physical structures and spaces of our schools can be used as pedagogical tools to reinforce the formal curriculum for ecological sustainability and disaster risk reduction. education. So the hidden curriculum, the concept of the hidden curriculum was developed to explain the learnings that students would get from system structures and spaces that are not part of the formal curriculum being taught inside the classroom. So these are implicit, unintentionally conveyed lessons and messages that may reinforce or even contradict classroom learning. And this hidden curriculum can plays a very important role in shaping the students' values, beliefs, and behaviors. There are many ways for the hidden curriculum to be manifested, having student organizations, school celebrations, school rules and guidelines, and other activities. But for this talk, I will be focusing on physical structures and spaces. At the Ateneo de Manila University Loyola Heights campus, we are privileged to enjoy over 80 hectares of space, a majority of which remains unbuilt. We're also very lucky to have a very supportive administration who has invested a lot in infrastructure for environmental management, sustainability, and disaster risk reduction. So, what messages are being conveyed by these spaces and structures? And what can campus green space and infrastructure teach us about ecology, sustainability, and disaster risk reduction? Our facilities show how we value nature. It's a reflection of our institutional view towards nature. So the availability of green, unbuilt, and even wild spaces attract urban wildlife, such as this migratory peregrine falcon, which just arrived earlier last month on campus, and which contribute ecosystem services such as microclimate regulation, air purification, water absorption, among others. Value for biodiversity and green spaces is also shown through planting native tree species, which have very strong ties with culture and the national identity, and relates also to our natural heritage, as Sadak previously discussed. How we design our buildings, such as the case of this cafeteria that wraps around this tree, which is incidentally also our national tree, shows that building with nature is possible. And another example is investing in porous paving that allows rainwater to percolate into the soil instead of becoming runoff and contributing to urban flooding. Finally, integrating green spaces into their everyday experience, such as this popular pedestrian walk, provides spaces for recharging and resting, using all of the psychosocial benefits that nature has to offer, reducing stress and anxiety, and increasing creativity. By protecting green spaces on campus, we show the community that urban areas and cities need not be ecological monstrosities, and that there are ways to integrate nature in the city to make it healthy, beautiful, and livable. Similarly, our infrastructure for sustainability also show our commitment. Infrastructure for non-motorized forms of transportation and pedestrian comfort, such as these bike lanes and pedestrian lanes, are also ways by which we show that sustainable mobility is a priority. And while these don't fully address, and they will not fully address the pervasive wicked problem of traffic, especially in urban areas, they do offer options and alternatives that can spark conversation and can spark thinking towards how we can further implement sustainable mobility. The visible presence of waste management facilities, such as this wastewater treatment facility and this materials recovery facility, show how the university integrates waste minimization and resource conservation in our daily operations. And in addition, keeping these facilities, because they're very visible, clean, neat, and orderly, also show how much we value them and how important they are to our operations. PWD access, including ramps, stair lifts, all gendered restrooms, also express the university's sincerity in providing safe and inclusive spaces. So if we consider the university as a microcosm of the city, these facilities, while small in scale, show our students that waste minimization, resource conservation, and efficiency and inclusivity are possible. Oops. How do our facilities show how we prioritize safety and preparedness? A sustainable community is a prepared community. And while we discuss the importance of disaster preparedness in the classroom, having visible manifestations of these lessons also reinforce it. visible stockpile container vans scattered throughout the campus, building reinforcements, emergency response capabilities, such as having your very own ambulances, and open spaces designated as safety zones not only complement emergency drills and disaster preparedness protocol, they also provide reassurance that the community safety is a priority for the university. So these are just some examples of these structures and facilities that we are privileged to have all over campus and which work with other elements of the hidden curriculum and the formal curriculum. Admittedly, the presence of these structures and spaces are only provide passive transmission at best. So it's also very important to provide active experiences of the campus to deepen the connection between the hidden and the formal curriculum. Through guided nature, oops, sorry, let me go back for a bit. Through guided nature walks, sustainability tours, and other outdoor activities, this hidden curriculum can be revealed and emphasized. Walking students, even faculty and staff, and other school stakeholders through these spaces and structures, telling them stories and connecting back to what was discussed in the classroom helps bring the hidden curriculum to the fore and provides tangible examples that support classroom lessons. In addition, these activities provide contact with nature, leading to positive impacts on well being, such as improving moods, sharpening focus, reducing feelings of stress and anxiety, and boosting creativity. Our campus facilities, including green spaces, are physical manifestations of the ethos, the identity, the values, and the character of the school. These may be used as pedagogical tools to complement the formal curriculum, and therefore investments in these structures can also be viewed as investments in education. Also, we can also look at facilities management personnel not as support staff, but as true partners in education and formation. So it's not enough that we have them on campus. It's not enough that they are present. We have to also provide active experiences so that we can reveal this hidden curriculum to emphasize or reinforce the formal curriculum that our students are learning in the classroom. And having all of these experiences helps deepen the understanding of ecological sustainability and disaster preparedness concepts with the added benefit of spending time outdoors and having contact with nature. So if we are lucky enough to have these structures and spaces present, we must take it as an opportunity for communicating what we want our students, even faculty, staff, administrators, and other university stakeholders to know about ecology, sustainability, and disaster risk reduction. So in doing so, the campus itself becomes the teacher. And to end, in the words of Marshall McLuhan, by capitalizing on the campus as teacher, the campus becomes the medium and the message. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much to our panelists. I don't know if this is good news or bad news, but no questions were sent because we had an outpouring of positive statements that are more like good feedback rather than questions. They don't end with question marks, but they are just things like great activities, thank you for sharing, very interesting, all just an outpouring of learnings that people had. So those aren't really questions. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing because I don't know what to ask you.
It should be positive.
Yeah, but I was just going to say that the presentation of Muhammad Shariar, reminds us that renewable energy should also come in recyclable packaging, because I've always just looked at the bright side of solar panels without, so I think just even from the title, you've warned us enough. As Sadaf was saying, we don't want to just sell sustainability wholesale. They've encouraged their students to be critical, and I think that this morning we've had enough a balance of sunshine and stormy clouds brewing in the distance, because this morning has not been really romanticizing all the good things. There has also been a lot of warnings from all of our speakers. However, for Abby, I must say that even if I've attended so many of your walks repeatedly, it's only now I found out about the hidden curriculum and all the design elements that come into play to make the campus as teacher. And it makes me want to cry because I really, really miss the campus. Since we don't have questions, do you want one last minute each to I don't know, wrap up the panel session? Maybe to one another, or any feedback you might have. Maybe I'll start with you, Muhammad. Was there anything in the live stream? Did you check? Did you get?
Not yet.
Not yet. But maybe just the parting words from you. We don't have questions. You know, people are saying, love it. How might, this has a question mark, thank God. How might we now bring nature into the classroom now that we're limited to online learning? That's probably a question for Abby. But also feel free to answer, Sadaf, if you have thoughts on this, or Muhammad Shariar. You know, it's the online challenge. Abby?
Thank you for that question. That's also something that I grapple with my partner. I also work with Trinket Canlas Constantino of the biology department. Together, we run a social media page for campus biodiversity called the Ateneo Wild. We actually have a workshop later this afternoon. So when the pandemic started, that was one of the existential questions we were asking ourselves. How do we now move forward? How do we proceed with our advocacy for green spaces and urban biodiversity if we can't even be outdoors? But I guess in our case, we're very lucky that we have our social media page, which is an opportunity to bring nature indoors, although in a very digital way. So that was something we also grappled with, that how we're losing the real experience with nature and the immersive part of nature. But that's one of the things that we can do. Trinket and I are also privileged to still be able to go to the campus every once in a while for mission critical work. So we're able to collect information, we're able to monitor campus biodiversity. But there are a lot of opportunities to integrate the outdoors into our classroom activities. No matter where you are in the city, there's always one form of nature or another. You're lucky if you have a garden, but many of us live, for example, in vertical neighborhoods. The best access that you have is a window or a balcony. You're lucky if you have plants, but there's so much more to nature than just having green stuff. So, for example, in the city, you also have you have a diverse species of birds. So you can also capitalize on that. You can also engage all the senses when you try to integrate nature in your activities, because sometimes we can't see them but we can hear them, or we can smell them, or something else. So there's a lot of creative ways that we can integrate the outdoors into our everyday activity, even for students who might not have access to a garden.
But Sadaf in NUS, you're doing that now, right? Are classes suspended, or are you back on campus in Singapore?
We're very fortunate. Singapore took a very disciplined approach, at least on several fronts. And I'm in my office. I'm allowed in with various checks in place. The campus has been open. A lot of modules went online, but we fought to keep our GEQ module in person. Also offering students, because it's a residential college, it's very hard to know how students are doing online. And so we had to adapt by reducing class size, temperature checks, safe distancing, but we were able to teach in person. My answer, actually, I would rather focus on something that Abigail just mentioned, and in direct response to the question that was raised. I believe everywhere that we have a lockdown, you're allowed to go out for exercise. Nearly everywhere, right? Are we allowed to go out for individually to cycle or walk in a park? I don't know in different parts of the world how that is going on.
Yeah, Thailand can.
Okay.
We can do everything.
So in places where you are allowed that half an hour or 1 hour of personal time, we have embedded in our curriculum for the formal and the informal components. We teach it on Zoom, And we put in an activity that students must complete on their own by stepping out, whether it's on or off campus. Like you can find the park closest to you, and in that half an hour, 45 minutes, you have to do that. So it sort of is a wellness check because it's forcing you out of your apartment. So you are going to get that fresh air, and it doesn't have to be on campus, but wherever you go, whether it's a study of a green building or it's to document biodiversity, which one of my colleagues mounted, or whether it is to check patterns of interaction between humans and nature, we empowered students to do that individually and then come back and report. And then the follow-up lesson would be a discussion on that. So that's how we are bringing back the physical, the actual interaction with nature to our classroom activity. While the classroom may be on Zoom or in the classroom, we are pushing them out on their own to go and use that half an hour, 1 hour that they may have to just go out there. So that might be something you'd be willing to explore. And they either have to take a V-fee or they can do a run keeper tracking to where they walked and what they observe on their walk. That gets captured as part of classroom teaching. Does that sort of address the question?
Yeah. And there's also a question for all three panelists. What is the biggest challenge you're currently experiencing in the work that you do? And what do you need the most help with, and from whom? So I'll repeat that. What's the biggest challenge you're currently experiencing in the work that you do? What do you need the most help with, and from whom? And while you're thinking about it, I'll just read one positive feedback from Bopip Saloma. Having the social on the agenda is a triumph, but important too is the natural and the material world. Thanks for the insightful and inspiring presentations. Father Bert Alejo also said, wonderful presentations. Now the challenge is how to solve traffic within the campus. Now let's go back to the questions. So for all three panelists, who would like to start? Would you like to start, Mohammed? Or not yet?
I would like to say something. Actually, simple thing can be make us different. For example, sustainable development is not actually big, do something big. No, just simple thing. We throw plastic outside. We don't care our waste. Just simple initiative can make us different, right? So for in my sense, it's very difficult to train up, make it simple, because we all the time we think about difficult. So this is the big challenge for me. Think simple.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention the name of the person who posed the question. It's Anna Marie Alfelor. So who would like to answer next? Abby, Sadaf?
I can go next.
All right.
I think my biggest challenge has been, continues to be, I think bridging the gap that I have based on where I grew up and the generation I grew up in with the current youth who in Singapore are completely urbanized, and their world perspective is different. And I cannot always sit within the space that I think is informed by my personal experiences. I think bridging the gap, whether it's collaboration with business partners or with the students that we teach, that continues to be a challenge I encounter on a daily basis, is to have empathy for the other's perspective, and to consciously remember that just because I know that perhaps we are driven by a good mission is not enough, is to be able to go across to the other side and see how they may be seeing it, and how may we then come back and work together. So to talk about nature and biodiversity to highly urban students is a challenge that we should be mindful of, but not say that, well, they don't understand, is to see their conditioning has informed them and have empathy and build that back. And a little bit of empathy and love goes a long way. So yeah, just that perhaps.
Abby?
Yes, I totally agree with Sadaf. Maybe one of the biggest challenges in my experience in our work for campus sustainability is really seeing how we can translate what they learn in classrooms or even the hidden curriculum into actual concrete action. And just by informing them or just by teaching them about this doesn't guarantee that there's going to be an affect, or there's going to it's going to translate into a behavioral or cultural change. And Doc Kendra mentioned several aspects of this earlier. So it really has to be a holistic thinking of the entire system, not just a specific problem and not just a specific context. And one of the challenges also for sustainability in the Philippines, of course, is in the context of a developing country. How do we, how do we uh, not solve, but how do we respect and how do we work around the tensions between poverty, between social political context, between cultural context? And we see a lot of these issues in the media, especially now after what's happened in the past few days in the Philippines. There's a lot of discussion about this culture of resilience. Does it even exist, or should we build more dams, or what's the best solution to all of these problems? So that's something we grapple with every day, and something that we still don't have the perfect answer to.
Well, someone squeezed in one final question. And if anybody else wants to add, I'm not taking it anymore because it's already 12 noon. So this is the last question. This is from Maria Zania Dulce, I think. No, that's a comment. A question. Within the context of Sustainable Development Goal 17, SDG 17, how could we work together? What are practicable, actionable areas of collaboration? This is from Marcel Fernandez Carag. Could you kindly share, okay, how can we work together towards a common goal of preserving our environment? It reminds me of the title of the opening keynote, no? From education to edu-action. It's a good play of words, but I think that's what people are asking for, So while you're thinking about it, somebody, Maria Senia Dulce said, excellent speakers, timely topics. Oh, the moderator is also engaging. Thank you. Okay, so now thank you very much. Okay, final words on from education to edu-action. Okay.
I can go in.
Yes, Sadaf.
We found that reaching out to industry and seeking partnerships with both industry and government and institutional boards is a great way, so that what you're teaching is not within the silo of what education needs to do. In the project work that I talked about, we found it very effective to reach out to companies, whether it's a food catering company, large conglomerates in Singapore, to just partner with the sustainability arm and say, what is it that you need? Where are your stumbling blocks? Oh, you need a code for this. Okay, so we are no longer trying to solve problems in abstraction. And because industry actually carries a huge footprint, it's good to sort of look back and be informed by them. Also with government bodies who are in charge of environment and other things, just reaching out to them and saying, okay, we're doing this, what are you doing? And actively keeping that communication going. And then the advantage being that students feel that what they're doing, I think, Marie, you spoke about it, is that how does it get translated? So the empowerment to youth comes from the fact that what I learned happened. You talked about translation. So let's just go directly to, who's causing the problem perhaps, or who's struggling with the problem, and say, what are you doing? How can we help? Okay, and then tell students, if you do this, you will see the change play out in the next 2 years. And one of our studies, we found that millennials really feel empowered by the fact that they're invested in seeing things play out. They no longer want conceptual impact. They really feel empowered when they see, where's the change? Like, well, what happened? When I did this, what's the consequence? So in order for this partnership to be meaningful for them, the empowerment comes from the fact that they feel, okay, if we do this, we've moved the needle a little bit, not a lot, but just a little bit. And that can be quite powerful.
Any words from either Abby or Shariar?
Maybe a very specific example in our case, partnership is very important because it helps us amplify the advocacy, and it opens us up to other perspectives as well, to help refine our advocacy and what we want to do with, for example, green spaces and urban biodiversity. So in our case, we're very lucky to have friends in the University of the Philippines. They also have their own UP Wild, and together we set up the Katipunan Wild. So we were able to also build social media pages for green spaces and biodiversity in those areas. And we work together. We have common projects. We have common activities as well. So that's one of the things. We're lucky because the topic is interesting to many people. So I guess for other aspects of sustainability and ecological education, it's really also very challenging. But reaching out to other universities, reaching out to other organizations is very, very important. So thank you for that question.
Okay. Any final words, Hamad? Because
Yeah, I would like to say just something. Actually, we cannot do anything without collaboration right now in present world. If I have, for example, if I want to implement solar recycling, I need Sadao, I need Abizal, Maria. I cannot implement alone, right? For social, for economical, I need. So, and we have also different organizations. Those organizations negotiate each other. Future Earth, UN, they have many organizations. So it's yeah, easy to collaborate. We cannot do alone right now. Thank you.
so we are now going to close this panel with a picture taking session.